Here, in this table called building features, you actually have all the amenities that are present or not present in the property indicated by a checkbox to the left. If you want to see what the impact of a playground is, for example, well, you can see that for a playground, the market frequency among this market map to the right is 13%. And the premium for having versus not having that amenity is $22.37 plus or minus $5.39. If I want to see what the impact of adding that amenity would be, I can simply toggle it and I'll see Enodo rent actually change to reflect the presence of this amenity in the property, and I'll see the comps update to reflect that I'm now comparing to a property that does have a playground as an amenity. Now, I can do this with multiple different amenities here. As I'm toggling each one of these, the Enodo rent is actually updating to reflect their presence in the property. So this is at the property level, but you can also do it at the individual unit level. Here we start off with the average finishes for any unit in the building, so the base finishes is what we call it. And if I want to see what the impact of, perhaps adding a kitchen island would be, I could see that, 24% of units in the market have this amenity. It's $30 premium plus or minus about $5. So I'll add that to all of my units, and I'll see that Enodo rent updates to reflect. Now, you usually don't do a value add over the entire building at the same time. Usually what you'll do is pick a certain unit type or a certain tier and renovate that unit type or tier as a trial, or perhaps those are the only units that actually need renovation. Here I have the option to go into any particular floor plan, any unit type, and add a new finish set. Now when I do this, I'll have to name it. I'll call it renovated. It's a completely new finish set, renovated. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to add, let's just add every amenity just to see what the impact is. So I go through, I'm toggling everything. You can see to the right the frequencies and premiums. And so now I've added every single thing that's possible at the individual unit level. I'm going to save that. And it's going to ask me, do I want to apply that to the current unit type, to every unit type in the building, or to just specific unit types? Well, right now I just want to apply it to the current unit type. So as I do that, you see that the Enodo rent actually changes to reflect that this now has the renovated feature package versus the base finish package. If I now want to drop down and change this for my one bed, one bath floor plan as well, I can do that. And then I'll see a Enodo rent update to reflect that that unit is renovated too. And I could do this for as many different feature packages and as many different unit types as I want, and easily test the impact of different feature packages in combination to any particular floor plan. Now, the beauty of this is it also is very good at modeling for development scenarios. So if you did have a base building and you wanted to see what the impact would be of, perhaps splitting your 3-bed, 3-bath units into a 1-bed and a studio, you could actually pretty easily copy those unit types, and then you'll see the floor plan is copied here. It has copy next to it as an indication of that. And I could say, all right, maybe I'll make this a 1-bed, 1-bath instead. It will jump up here to sort by bed, bath, whatever column I want to sort by, I have the ability to do that. And I can easily change the number of units. I could change the square footage to something that's more reasonable for a 1-bed, 1-bath. I can edit the market rent and the in-place rent. And the Enodo rent will update. And important to note, the Enodo rent does not actually change when you update the market rent. So even if I put 800 or I put 900 for the in-place, it's not going to affect the Enodo rent calculation, but it will affect my total for in-place, or my average for in-place, I should say, at the top. Now you can see how if I'm able to easily add or remove different unit types, I can pretty quickly test some different scenarios here and build a development essentially from the ground up. Additional thing to note, you can see each individual high-level unit type and what went into it as far as floor plans. And if you want, you can go into Enodo rent and see how we calculated it. So here, simply enough, we explain what the Enodo rent is. We explain base Enodo rent. This is stripping out all amenities from the unit. We explain the impact of year built. So this is a little bit older than other properties in the market, so we explain the effect of that. And then we quantify the impact of building features and amenities. And for this very highly amenitized property, there's actually a 42% premium for all of the features at the building and unit level. So moving on, the next tab is the comparables tab. Now, as we're toggling different amenities at the building and unit level, the statistical similarity of our building to every other building in the market is continually being recalculated. And you can see we've delivered what we find to be the statistically most similar comparable properties in the market. And we indicate this by a similarity score in the upper left. So here you see Enodo has picked Park Huron and NV Chicago as the two most statistically similar properties. Now there are many options below. We serve on average about 20 different rent comps that are potentially rent comps. It could be more or less, but the beauty of the platform is that you can actually select the ones that you feel are most statistically similar and add them to this panel above, where you can then track their performance over time. So what we show here, high-level characteristics of the building, the year built, number of units. You can see they're very comparable. We show the statistical similarity on each of these different dimensions: the distance, the year built, the number of units, the building features, the unit mix itself, and the unit finishes. Now, as we change things, these statistical similarities will change. As you edit your virtual model of the property, these will continue to update, and the comps themselves will continue to update. And here I'll show you an indication of that. I'll go in and I'll say, what if this building was built in 1920 instead? Now this is going to impact my rent, and it's going to impact my comps. So I go over here to comparables, and now look. Everything that is displayed here is a significantly older property, similar in terms of the number of units, but you can see the map has substantially changed and the statistically most similar comps have changed. Now I'll go back, change that back to 2010, the year it was actually built, and update, and then the rent will go back up and the comps will change. Now, one of the cool things about being able to statistically determine what properties are most comparable is you can actually then pull them in here and track those rents over time. So we're surveying these properties on a weekly basis. Every single Monday, I believe it's 5 p.m., we load this data from our database and update the rents per unit type for every comparable property. So if you wanted to come in here and track this week over week, you could, and you could see the updated rents that your competitors are charging for their properties. And this comes straight from the property website in the majority of cases. So it's a good indication of what their advertised rents are at any given point in time. Finally, let's move to the financial section. Now here we see the result of the operating statement we loaded earlier. You can see over to the right, the different line items are populated based on what we uploaded. And you can see on the left, Enodo's predicted benchmarks for each different operating expense line item. What you can do with this section is compare your property's performance to the averages for the market on an apples-to-apples basis. These expense benchmarks dynamically update to reflect the year built, the number of units, the net rentable square footage, the income profile, and the location of your property. So wherever you model this development, whether it's a new development or an existing property, these numbers are going to adjust to reflect what you should be able to achieve in terms of your operating expense line items. If you want to model in more detail and see Perhaps, when you acquire this, it's not going to be Enodo and it's not going to be the T12 historical data. You're actually going to get an even better deal on insurance here. Perhaps you can get insurance to $150 a unit. I can easily change that. I'll see the percentage on the right reflected. I'll see the insurance line item updated. And I'll still be able to compare it dynamically to the insurance operating expense benchmark for my property and my market. Something like contract services, you could do the same thing. Perhaps you know that your contract services are going to be a little higher than this. Maybe it's going to be $200,000 for you in operating this property. Easily you can edit by the total value, the per unit value, or the percent of EGR and update each of these line items. Management fee. This looks a little bit high based on the market benchmark. It should be a little bit lower. Let's say 2% is achievable. Easily you can see how you can model very quickly any project in this platform and see how it should perform relative to the market and how it would perform if you in particular operated it. Now I'll add a cap rate. Keep in mind, for cap rate prediction, Enodo has achieved accuracy within 70 basis points nationwide. Now, we're not accurate enough with our cap rate predictions to be able to put that in the interface at this point. We'll be the first to admit that. Once we get within 50 basis points of the actual cap rate prediction, we will put that in the interface as a default option. For now, we're collecting data from the market, and as people enter cap rates, we are training our algorithms on that to get better and better at predicting over time. The last component of this interface, and before I move to the last component, I'd like to note, this is important, on both the rent roll and the OPEX, you can actually upload from here. So if you wanted to upload a new updated T12, you could do that. Or if you wanted to do it on the floor plans tab, you can actually upload an updated rent roll here. So that's important to note because you can come in here, it's not a static analysis. You can come in and update over time and you'll see the most up-to-date figures in the interface based on the current status of your property. But the last component of this, after we've done the financials, is to export that data and go into Excel. So here I will save this to my desktop and I will open it and you'll be able to see everything that we just did in an environment that, most people, I would say 99.9% of people in commercial real estate will take something to Excel to model at the end of the day. Well, here you've got a nice summary of it. You've got your property name, address, type, year built. You've got your building features. You've got your unit features. You have the frequencies and premiums associated with everything that was toggled in the interface. Below that, you've got the unit mix, all the different unit types we uploaded by floor plan, and you have the selected comps, the two that we selected, side by side, comparing your property. So you have the numbers of each type of unit, you've got the average rents per square foot, and perhaps this is very useful, you have the amenities that they have and don't have relative to the competition. We also open book this so you can see all the other different comps that we predicted for this property in this market. Now, you may not believe that all these are comps or have selected them, but you're still able to view the data yourself here and do more in-depth market analysis if you desire. Our financial section, so now you've got the market benchmarks that Enodo predicted next to the figures input by the user and the valuation based on those figures input by the user underneath. Now, one thing to note about this, if I did not upload an operating statement, this would start off as the Enodo figures and you could update them from scratch. You don't have to have a T12 to make this work. So even if this was all zeroed out or I didn't have any data to start with, I could use the Enodo figures as a starting point and quickly model any development in any market, any stabilized property in any market for that matter too. Moving on, the last tab of the rent roll, or the last tab of the Excel export is the rent roll. So this is just a convenience thing. We actually parse all the different elements from the rent roll and dump them into this Excel format. So if you're parsing a PDF, sometimes it is difficult to parse this out. Just copy and paste can be tedious. We do that for you, so it's a little bit simpler. That's the end of this tutorial for this particular element of the interface. Next, I'll show you how to search a market and integrate your property portfolio through Yardi or RealPage.